we love it, and we love progressing it. We love cheering each other on, and I feel like kids saw that and they're like, this is something totally different than what I'm used to, and it's competitive, but there's camaraderie, and it's exciting, and it's daredevil, and it just fit the mold of the new generation. And maybe my sort of battle with the 900 embodied that in some way.
This is Boozed and Bruised, Revolver's action sports podcast. Here's your host, Eric Hendrikx.
This is Eric Hendrikx. A little background on me. I started out as a photographer and then writer for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, having worked on books with Randy Couture, Ken Shamrock, BJ Penn, Joe Rogan, and so many more incredible athletes. Eventually working with Forrest Griffin on Got Fight and Be Ready When the Shit Goes Down, 2 books that went on to become New York Times bestsellers. Then I wrote a book called Bringing Metal to the Children with humble Viking guitarist from New Jersey and my Black Label brother, Zach Wilde. Since then, I've been turning out interviews and articles about action sports for Rolling Stone, Playboy, and Revolver. Projects that have taken me to incredible places all around the world. Outside of riding, I love skateboarding, playing music, and riding motorcycles. Just living the dream, guys. But I'm so stoked to be able to bring so many incredible athletes and characters to this podcast, and it's such an honor to help share their compelling stories. I really hope you enjoy them, and thank you so much for listening. I'm here today with whom I consider to be the most successful and influential skateboarder of all time, Tony Hawk. Tony skated for Pal Peralta on the legendary Bones Brigade team until he eventually left and co-founded Birdhouse Skateboards, a company that is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. He created one of the most successful video game franchises of all time, has competed in hundreds of contests, winning most of them, and was the first to land a 900 in a competition in X Games back in 1999. Tony has appeared in dozens of videos, films, television shows, and still finds time for philanthropy. The Tony Hawk Foundation helps build skate parks in underprivileged areas. Man, Tony, it's such an honor. Dude, thanks so much for being on the show.
Sure.
Let's talk about Birdhouse. It's 25th anniversary of Birdhouse Skateboards. You founded the company with Per back in 92.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the scene like and the climate like back then when you started the company?
Well, it was uncertain at best. Skateboarding was in a lull of popularity. It kind of exploded in the 80s with all the heyday of like Bones Brigade and flashy Vision Streetwear, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I think there's a variety of reasons, but I think the biggest reason was that skate parks basically all closed because of the liability laws. And skating had come and gone and in waves of popularity up to that point. Mm-hmm. So we were at that cycle, in the low part of that cycle in the 90s, and a lot of my peers were struggling to figure out what they're going to do to make a living. Starting Birdhouse was my way of what I thought was transitioning out of being a pro skater and into being a company owner.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do that under the umbrella of a larger company, which we were offered to do.
Right.
Just because I felt like we needed to have our own identity. And a lot of skating there was just all this infighting right then in the industry.
Tough time, so everyone was kind of battling.
Everyone was battling, and then World Industries came in with, all of their advertising that was basically just dissing everyone else.
Right.
And that resonated, and then people got into that, and then I was just like, I want to do just our own thing and just to have it be about good skating. Mm-hmm. And so I met with Per Wielander, and he wanted to do the same thing, but he also wanted to make it a bigger play in that doing distribution as well for other brands.
Oh, okay.
And at the same time, Lance Mountain wanted to do his own thing. And Tommy Guerrero,
right?
And it wasn't like we were in collusion, but we all sort of found each other in the same, with the same desire,
right?
But to all do our own things. And so Per and I had the most resources in terms of money that we could put into it. So he and I both pooled our money together to start Birdhouse and Birdhouse Distribution, which later became Blitz Distribution. And we were distributing The Firm, which was Lance's brand, and Real, which was Tommy's brand.
Right.
And that was the beginning. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were literally like 3 dudes in this warehouse, in this office space in Huntington, cold calling shops. It's like, hey, we started a new company, Birdhouse. You want to buy a board?
Yeah.
2, please.
Were you running the boards around town?
I mean, I was making phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, I was doing the team managing, I was doing the ads, I was doing the videos,
everything.
I mean, we didn't have anyone else to do it, and at some point, the other guys said, you're not really doing the ads that well, so we're going to have someone else do them. I was like, that's fine with me.
Oh man,
I think that's when Jeremy Klein became the art director.
Okay, there you go. And so you mentioned the team. What was the team at the time? Like, how did you start out?
The first team members were Willie Santos and Jeremy Klein, and then eventually we got Steve Barra as our AM skater, and Ocean Howell, and then Andrew Reynolds, Matt Beach, Mike Yusufer, Mike Frazier. Those were sort of the later, not later, but the second wave of team members.
Right. And Andrew Reynolds, he he was only on the team for a few years, and then he founded Baker, right?
Yeah, I mean, a few years. Felt like a while.
It was a while?
92 to like 98, 9.
Oh, he was on for quite a while, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he started Baker, which you guys distributed him for a while.
Yeah, we helped him to form Baker. We actually helped to fund it, too. Mm-hmm. Which we were, by that time, we kind of had I don't want to say a system, but we definitely knew how to do it, and we had done it for hookups.
Oh, right.
And so we were ready to take on another brand. We did it for Flip, too.
Backing up a little bit, so the first couple of years was like a struggle. You guys were building a little bit, and I read somewhere that was around like 95-ish or something like that. And I don't know if the date's right, but it said something about you were surviving off of like a $5 a day budget.
Yeah.
Like Taco Bell or
more
something like that.
93, 94.
93, 94.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. I mean, I got in over my head in terms of mortgage payments and things like that through the late 80s because we didn't see an end in sight, and then all of a sudden I was stuck with this huge mortgage, and then I literally took out a second mortgage to start Birdhouse, so I found myself in a really a tight financial position. And Riley's mom was a manicurist, so we survived on her cash tips for like food.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds difficult. We lived in a nice house. It wasn't like we were destitute, but it was super tight. We had to make it work. We eventually moved back into the first house that I had ever lived in, or first house I ever bought, which was a duplex with Riley, and just made it work. We cut back all our costs, and yeah, for sure, my food budget was very slim, so it was a lot of Taco Bell, a lot of Top Ramen, a lot of peanut butter and honey sandwiches.
None of those things sound that bad, though.
Yeah, I don't see those. That's the thing. Like when you look back on it, it seems difficult, but I was doing all that so I could still skate.
Right.
And I still got to skate, and that was what made me happy in terms of my job. And so I don't look back at it like it was the most difficult time. It was like we got to skate, we still got to travel, we still got to do demos. Like,
oh yeah,
we were living the dream. You know? It's just the dream wasn't penthouses.
Yeah.
The dream was like skating for a living.
Right. Yeah, and the menu sounds like my college menu, like Kool-Aid and Top Ramen or something, but they were the best of times.
Yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to live it up, I put an egg in the Top Ramen.
Oh, there you go.
Big time.
Dial it in.
Yeah.
The protein. What changed? I mean, what was the biggest, the most drastic thing the next couple of years that changed?
I think it was the X Games.
Mm-hmm.
As much as people don't want to admit that or don't want to give them credit, like when the X Games came around, it was 1995. I mean, they were, it was all an experiment.
Right.
It was like extreme. It's like bungee jumping and sky surfing and skateboarding and rock climbing, and it was just like these all fit together. I'm like, they don't.
Right.
Whatever,
like. Yeah, I remember those rock climbing walls.
But they're putting on a televised skate contest, and that was a big deal. And that wasn't lost on me. A lot of people were put off by it immediately because it was network and because of all the other shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, this is our chance to, shine through all this chaos,
right?
All these strange fringe, whatever activities, because we've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like skateboarding was way more refined. So for us, well, for me personally, I was like, this is an opportunity,
right?
To show that we are serious about this, and that we're passionate. And I do feel like, especially in those early X Games, like skateboarding sort of rose above the rest of it.
Oh yeah, big time.
Just, and they were just silly, like. The dudes on the bungee would like jump off in a kayak and stuff. It's like, what is going on? This isn't sports,
right?
And this isn't pushing the envelope. This is just this is a circus.
We needed one more event. Someone made it up,
Yeah, eco challenge, like, who won't get dehydrated? But then when. As it developed, they started refining it, and as far as I'm concerned, the most exciting sports rose to the top, which were skateboarding, BMX, and motocross.
Right.
And skateboarding was on the radar of sort of mainstream media. People that were somewhat interested in skateboarding suddenly were transfixed with the television coverage, and they could see how far it had come.
Right.
Because the last time they saw skating was like 88, 89.
Oh, yeah.
Off of jump ramps and stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, these guys are crazy. Like, they're risking their lives. They're doing these big handrails. They're doing, like, flips on the ramps and stuff. And I think that gave it an audience. And then, obviously, from there, with our video games hitting, just a couple years after, it was like the perfect storm. And I think that was the tipping point for skateboarding, when it moved off of being a novelty and a niche thing to something kids choose to do as much as they choose to play soccer or baseball. Right.
I was talking to Elliot Sloan the other day, one of your teammates, and he had told me that the single thing that got him interested and sparked his interest, ignited him into getting into vert skating, was watching you land the 900 in the X Games.
Yeah, I'm proud of that moment as well, but like I said, there was this sort of perfect storm in motion, and I don't know if that was one of the only elements, but for sure that helped as well.
Right.
I think more than just being, more than being, this sort of milestone trick. I think it was more that people liked what they saw in us and in me, because they saw this passionate determination to push boundaries with no real reward.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because people are playing for the Super Bowl, it's millions of dollars and contracts and stuff, and we're doing it. We've been doing it for free forever,
Yeah.
And we love it, and we love progressing it. We love cheering each other on, and I feel like kids saw that and they're like, this is something totally different than what I'm used to. And it's competitive, but there's camaraderie, and it's exciting, and it's daredevil, and it just fit the mold of the new generation.
Right.
And maybe my sort of battle with the 900 embodied that in some way, but
without a doubt. So
yeah, I'm stoked that people took it from there. For me, it was something that I've been trying to do for 10 years, and finally landed it. So
right.
That I guess excitement or celebration definitely shone through.
Oh yeah, definitely resonated. It was that was a cool conversation, hearing that from Elliot, and especially that he still rides with you guys, today. So like that steered his entire life,
and does 900s,
and does 900s. yeah, crazy. The video game. So the video game launched right around the same time as all this stuff was going on. And so it was like a whole nother franchise, like one of the biggest video game franchises, most successful probably of all time.
That was just the biggest surprise and success, obviously, of my career. And I set out to do the video game basically because I wanted something that skaters would be proud of. Because everything that had skating in it, in terms of video games, prior to that, was exploitive, kind of cheesy, whatever. We were stoked to have it, but the skating wasn't authentic.
Yeah.
Just look at 720. Like, that was a popular game. You boneless around the place. and you get as much points for sliding down the vert ramp as you do for doing McTwists. So
right.
There was, there's something off with that. But I wanted to do something that I thought skaters would be like, oh, cool, let's get a PlayStation, play that game. And then once I think I knew that it would be successful beyond just skateboarding, but like right when it was about to launch, a lot of skaters were playing it. Like, they'd come to my house and play it. And
like beta testing and stuff like
that?
Or
I would let them borrow my PlayStation for a little bit and come back, and then they just started calling it the game. And that was it. Like, if you played the game. And I knew like there was a buzz about it.
Okay.
And then right when it was about to launch, Activision offered me a buyout of future royalties.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I didn't know much at the time, but I knew that was a good sign.
Yeah.
And luckily, things had kind of turned around for me financially, so I told him that I'd rather ride it out and see what happens. For sure, it was like the best financial decision of my life. But at one point, the fourth game was released, and the other 3 games prior to that were still in the top 10 of sales.
Wow.
So it got crazy.
That's so cool. And then over the years, you were able to put like a bunch of your buddies in the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, after a while, it became more, I guess, more of a curse, because then everyone wanted to be in the game.
Right.
And then you had to, like, gently tell people no, and they're like, why does he? And it's like, well, we're trying to keep it diverse,
Yeah.
Different types of skating, different types of people, and so it got a little weird.
Right. The phone's ringing off the hook.
Yeah. I mean, I literally would get cold calls from pros that I knew their name, but I didn't know them. They're like, yo, man, why don't you put me in your game? I don't even know you. Like, I saw a photo of you in a magazine. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. They're auditioning right there over the phone. You should have just had them spit out a few lines. You're like, all right, well, I want you to say the following things.
Right.
Nope, sorry, you didn't make it. And so, so 25 years of Birdhouse, what do you feel like is like your proudest moments of Birdhouse Skateboards over the years?
Well, I think I really liked what we created in the beginning, because we did create a team that was based on quality skating first and foremost, and not being shocking and not being offensive and not being combative with other brands. Mm-hmm. So I'm proud that we started on that foot. I would not have been able to do half of what we did without Jeremy Klein's creative input. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was such an integral part of our aesthetics, and he's very opinionated, but he was, he had great ideas, and and when we did the end, I mean, the end was probably the biggest project that we did up till now. And the end, Jeremy was the one who came up with almost all the sort of threads and the stories and the segues, and obviously he and Heath did their own thing. Mm-hmm. That video was, at the time, that was our opus.
Right. And you come out of Palo Alto, so you had experience with like the Bones Brigade videos and how powerful that was. Yeah. I mean, we had a great team. We had Jeremy, as a creative director. We had Mouse, who was the videographer, but also had a really good idea of how he was going to put it all together. Mm-hmm. And then me and Per were writing checks, basically. Right. But which was a big deal then, because no one had a budget for anything. Yeah.
So up till, I'd say, that was probably the project I was most proud of. And then when I took Birdhouse over from Per a few years ago and focused on a whole new team, and those guys winning King of the Road, I mean, just the first time, like, that was a huge moment for me, because it really validated why I had put out that effort in getting a team.
Oh, yeah.
And to be honest, pay them more than what we were making back in royalties. Mm-hmm. Still. Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
But I wanted to make an investment.
Right.
Because I believe in those guys, and I feel like they appreciate that too.
Right.
Especially now, it's so, you know, the skate industry is so volatile and it's so uncertain, and I feel like those guys feel secure in that I'm gonna be there.
Right. You're taking care of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, with this video, like this video's costing a lot more money than I imagined. But for me, it's worth it because I feel like I have lightning in a bottle in terms of the talent on the team, and they deserve to be in a cohesive skate video that features all of them. And
you've got guys like Jaws and Clint Walker and Ben Rayborn, David Lloyd, and a few more guys. And the NAMs, was it Sean Hill and
Clive.
And Clive,
yeah.
Right? Yep. And then Lizzie's on the team too. Elliot's on the team. So so it was a conscious decision a few years ago to just completely like revitalize the team.
Yeah, little by little. Yeah. I mean, we definitely had different incarnations of the team through those years, but those are the ones that the guys that are on the team now are the ones that I saw something special in, and I saw a drive in them to keep getting better. You know, they weren't like just resting on their accolades. They weren't partying to an excess that they couldn't function. So definitely, we had different skaters as well.
Right.
But those are the guys that I thought were the ones that were going to carry Birdhouse through to 25 years.
Right. And you mentioned King of the Road winning, with the guys, but now they've won 3 times. Yeah, and they probably would have won 4 times.
It's very likely, yes.
They just didn't get invited back. I think that was why, because it was one other team that had won 3 times.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, that's fair.
They want everyone coming in and sweeping it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
And we, and to be honest, when they after the 3rd time they won, I was secretly hoping that they weren't going to be invited back because I really wanted to finish this video, and I knew that was going to distract.
Oh yeah.
From the focus of it.
Right. So everybody wins then.
We'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, you're right. It's a total testament to the team that you put together, the camaraderie between the guys. I mean, it is. I mean, when I travel with those guys, it is my second family. And I've been on a lot of skate tours. I've hung out with a lot of different skaters, and the closest thing that I had to that was the Bones Brigade. So I feel like we do have our own Bones Brigade vibe for sure. That's incredible. I talked to Clint just recently, and he was telling me a little bit about the King of the Road stories and being on Birdhouse. And one thing that he loves so much about traveling with you is he's like, Tony is a skateboarder, and his words, he's like, he's a dirtbag like the rest of us. When we get in a van and we go rip, he's like, he does his thing, but when we're doing our thing, it's just skateboarding. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've lived their life, and so I like to. I'm their friend, firstly, but also at some point, I like to just have them know that there's not some authority figure that's going to tell them no. I want to be supportive in that. I want to facilitate that. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just one of them as well. I mean, we're all skaters. Right. I'm just not hitting those big ass handrails. Yeah. Or going on King of the Road. Yeah, I don't think. That's not. It's not good for a 40-something dad. Right. To be out there. Shenanigans. Husband, anything. Yeah. No. Well, yeah. So you just called these guys, like, basically related them to like the Bones Brigade, which is really interesting because you toured, back in the day with Rodney, Lance, and Cab, and Tommy, and Mike for all those years, and that's amazing that 25 years later you can sort of recreate that same vibe with these dudes on the road. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's different, but the energy, Yeah, I mean, I think it. I don't want to say it took a while, but as soon as we all got in the same, when we were all in the same place for just more than a week, it was very obvious that it was a good crew, and then it was a good synergy with everyone, and they all had each other's backs, and there wasn't some animosity, or there wasn't some, a lot of tension, and and in the past, I've been on tours where there's just one dude that ruins everything. Right.
It makes the whole thing a bummer.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's all it takes,
Yeah.
and we don't have that.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And throwing Lizzie into it was also not a challenge, but I felt a bit of a risk because you know how those dudes are. Like, it's just,
Right.
It's just full frat party for the most part.
Yeah.
And I didn't know
Throw
how
to the
Lizzie
wolves.
would want to. You know, I didn't know if she needed space or she needed to be separated from that, and she holds her own, and I'm not saying that in a way that is like, oh, she is complacent to this stuff. She is her own person, and she stands up for herself, and she is a testament to women being empowered and being individuals.
Yeah, she's a badass. I saw her skating at the Born Free event not too long ago with all the guys, just doing her thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, more than that, I've watched her. Like I've watched her struggle with, say, tricks on video, and the kind of heart and determination she has, you can't teach. You know, and it's way more than most dudes I've seen over the course of 40 years. She'll stick with it until it happens.
Right. And with that'll be interesting with her. So some of these girls are being like, also like, they're not like being positioned, but they're poised to skate possibly in the Olympics.
Yeah.
In 2020, and so she may be one of those.
She could be, yeah, in the park, yeah.
I
don't know. I don't think that she. Just knowing Lizzie, I don't think that's her drive. I don't think she's like trying to groom herself to be ready for that.
Right.
But for sure, when the time comes, she has all the elements to be in it.
The talent's all there. Yeah.
Yeah, she has. You know, she's determined. She's reliable. She's focused. She could do it.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this video. How long have you been filming for the upcoming
almost
Birdhouse
3
video?
years.
Saturdays.
I mean, the footage that we got that will be used in the video was originally just us in Europe on tour.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was we were on this tour, and we were doing demos in places like in Paris and outside of London, and then after a few days, when I would go out with those guys and go see them on the streets, I was like, holy shit, like we have something really amazing here. You know, the level of talent and just the sheer amount of footage that we're getting in between our demos here is like it's unparalleled. And it was that trip that I said at the end of it, I got everyone together and I said, you guys, we have to make a video. Like this is such an opportunity, and you guys are all ripping. You're in your prime. I don't want to say it'd be a waste, but I feel like it would be wasteful to just put this out as some tour video.
Right.
You know, some 7-minute highlight thing. Like that's not fair to what you guys are accomplishing here.
Yeah.
And if we really set out to it, and we spend a couple of years doing it, I think we tried to set a date then, which, from what I remember, would have been the end of last year.
Right.
But we've been sticking. I mean, once we really had a deadline, we're pretty much sticking with it. I mean, the deadline for footage was the end of June,
mm-hmm.
and the deadline for editing will be August 1st.
Got it.
So we're in the thick of it. We're getting there.
Home stretch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been about 10 years since the last video at the beginning.
Yeah, 10 years.
And in that video, you guys recreated something in the desert. It was like out in the lake bed or something.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a lot of like the Animal Chin, how you created this crazy ramp. You guys created this crazy ramp, and
well, see, that's a perfect example of how different it is doing a video now. I got that whole shoot funded by Jeep.
Okay.
Because I was sponsored by Jeep.
And there was a Jeep at the top of the ramp.
There was a Jeep at the top of the ramp.
That's right.
And it was a real Jeep. They used to have, when we would do tours, like our Huck Jam tours, Jeep was a sponsor of that. They just had a dummy Jeep up on the deck that we like grinded and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People didn't know it wasn't real, but this one in the desert was a real Jeep up on the deck.
They'd crane it up there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to do a shoot like that now would be next to impossible. Because sponsors, all they want is some short burst of like social media blast, a little bit of hype, and that's it. And nothing. There's no 3-year contracts with budgets like that.
Right.
And so doing this video has been very different in that sense. And I was looking for sponsors initially to help. Just help offset all the costs that I've been putting out, and at some point I was like, you know what, I don't really want to answer to anyone, and it's just not. No one's going to pony up the amount that would be worth giving them that much advertising.
Right. Giving them credit for like 3 years.
I mean, if someone's going to give us $1 million to make the video, then okay, then yeah, Monster Energy presents this, but
right.
It's not like that.
Yeah. So you guys didn't try to build...
But hey, that's not to say, in the next couple weeks, someone's going to drop $1 million on sponsoring the video, hit me up.
Yeah, Monster, call us now.
Yeah.
Or anyone else. I'm thinking about this, your teammates, guys. It's like the coolest guys. Who's the biggest nutball on your team?
Biggest nutball? Clint's probably the most unpredictable.
Really? In what way?
Well, just because he's always scheming to do some crazy thing.
Yeah.
Like some crazy stunt or, like, for instance, this is typical Clint. We were in, I'm such a dick, I don't remember the city. We were in some city in Ohio. I want to say Cleveland, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And it was one of our last demos of our trip. And he's like, hey, man, look at this place. And he shows me this video of these guys going off this giant water slide. Like, sliding off the thing, going like 30 feet in the air and landing in a pool. And he's like, this is like 2.5 hours away. Like, well, what does that mean? Well, let's go. When? Now. Like, it's our last night. Let's do this thing. I was
He's ready.
How do you... What? I called them. They said we could come. And lo and behold, we all jump in the van.
You went?
And drive to the water slide.
And you guys went on this giant water slide?
It was super fun. It was awesome. But that's Clint.
That's Clint.
Like, think just what is the next thing? What is something crazy we can get into, and then setting it up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's got the determination, and he can back it up.
Yes. Yeah. And he's a worker. Like he's a hustler.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got some personalities, and Deloy too. I recently saw him, and dude, he's on fire all the time. Yeah.
David's like a hype man for a rapper.
Total hype man. Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah. I think everyone who was skating in this competition I was at, he was running up and like picking him up, hugging him.
He's awesome.
High-fiving, firing him up. And he rips. And so it's What are you most excited about putting this video out?
I'm most excited about having something that represents our entire team that is cohesive. It's not just this guy's part, this guy's part, this part. There is a lot of camaraderie. There's a lot of heart in it, and I'm most excited to give them that opportunity to be in a video like that.
Yeah,
because those videos are few and far between now, and it's like a dying art form. It's funny though, because when people say, I'm dropping my video part. Well, what is it a part of? You're dropping a video of yourself.
Right.
But they say part because there's this reverence for the whole video.
Oh, right.
A part of, of a team video.
Yeah.
And that still is there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That idea is still there. And
lingering language of a full part. Yeah, or full video.
Full video. Yeah. We have all the parts.
Right.
In one place.
We've got all the parts.
Yeah.
That's cool. I want to talk a little bit about Riley, too, because he's such a good friend. He's your son, and he just rips. He's like grown in so many different ways. I mean, he's shredding for Baker. He just put out his video part. Yeah, which was awesome. And he's doing so many other things. He's doing artwork. He's a musician in a band. And
yeah, he's always dabbled. I mean, when he was a kid, too, he picked up a guitar real early, and he used to do he used to ride motocross, and he did a lot of art. He tagged his balcony. He tagged his balcony as a kid. I came home and this whole balcony's got like graffiti on it.
Early artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your room.
Yeah. I've been to his house. His house is tagged too. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So
that never changed.
Yeah, it's a thread. But yeah, he's been creative. He's always wanted to be creative.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to see him. It's been fun to see him implement all those things into his adult life, and those interests, and actually make him a living.
Mm-hmm.
Like all that stuff it's fun for him, but it's legit.
Yeah. Yeah, we get along really well, and I think one of the things I love so much about him is he's such a humble, real dude. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's not trying to be anybody else, and he's never trying to be like, oh, my dad's Tony Hawk or anything like that.
Oh no! If anything, he's trying not to do that as much as he can. Yeah.
Right, and he's just being himself, and to a great success. You know,
Yeah.
which has been fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, I think growing up, and he grew up. Well, in his early years, like that was when the struggle was hard, and definitely his childhood was not easy. He was bouncing around houses, and at one point, like his mom was living in a trailer on her boyfriend's dad's property, and it got rough. But
Yeah.
But then suddenly things turned around when he was 10 years old ish, and then it was suddenly like, you're Tony Hawk's kid, and that became more of a burden.
Right.
So he's seen it all.
Yeah.
and seen how hard it is on both ends of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
which I think has given him a lot of perspective.
And in the face of all that, he skated for Birdhouse, and
Yeah, and well, that was, especially those years when he started coming into his own and skating, that got harder for him too, because he was shying away from it. He didn't like the pressure that was put on him. He loved skating, but he just thought it was this shadow that he couldn't pull out of was my name.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started trying to, I'll never forget, he was trying to ride motocross, and he kept talking about getting sponsored. Like, I might get sponsored. And I was like, and I knew that we didn't have the time or resources to really get him into motocross. Like, it was,
right.
That's a full-time job for any parent.
Uh-huh.
And we, drive to the track once in a while. And then at some point I just said, you know what, Riley, I appreciate that you like motocross and that you want to get serious about it. But I know, what it takes, and you're pretty good riding motorcycles for your age, but you're very good at skateboarding for your age.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're leaps ahead of anyone your age, really. And,
right.
And you're becoming better than a lot of guys I know who've been skating most of their lives. And if you want to really do something that involves sponsorship and stuff, I think you should take skating a little more seriously.
Yeah.
Because he was starting to shy away from it.
Okay.
And I think he took that to heart, and then and he realized, like, most of his close friends, they all still skated. That was their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the beginning of Shep Dogs.
Right.
Not because of what I said, but he gravitated towards those guys, and they all just made their little crew. They started shooting video, and all of a sudden it was like they had their own thing.
Yep.
And it wasn't in my shadow. It wasn't anything I was doing.
It was all them.
It was all them. And,
Yeah.
and suddenly that caught on, and it was like, holy shit. And, like, if you look back at that crew, Kirby and, and Jacob and, AJ and Rowan, like, every one of those guys can hold their own.
They're all so gnarly. And Jaws...
And Riley's half-brother, Tanner, is ripping.
Right. And Jaws came out of that.
Jaws was, a little bit. I mean, Jaws was on his own.
He was out in Phoenix, so he wasn't here.
Yeah.
But is that ultimately how you discovered him, was through Riley? Because he had...
I think Riley showed me the Happy Medium video?
Oh, you know what? That's what it was. It was a Happy Medium video.
He showed me that, and he was like, yeah, look at this guy. He does, like, 540s in pools. And I was like, yeah, right. And then I watched, I was like, Jesus, like, that guy's for real.
Yeah.
And can do the gnarly street stuff. And as we were sort of trying to reorganize the Birdhouse team, I just called him out of the blue.
That must have been a fun phone call for him.
Yeah, I don't think he really believed it was me, and then he kind of was like, I don't know, and obviously I didn't need an answer right then, but I just said, hey, if think about it, call me. And then he called me a couple weeks later, and it's like, I think that's what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And pretty much the same thing happened with Ben.
Oh, no kidding.
I just called Ben one day.
Said, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Come on down.
Yeah. And Lizzie.
That's the thing. So people would just like work your hardest, skate your hardest, and one day you might get a phone call from Tony Hawk.
If I'm still on the pulse of skating, yeah.
Right.
Of new skating.
Yeah, well, it sounds like with this video and everything you guys have accomplished, that's not going to be a problem. Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you've done, and congratulations on 25 years of Birdhouse.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I still can't believe it's 25 years. It's so crazy.
Time flies.
I know.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun. I mean, it's still my passion project in so many ways. You know, even like when things took a downturn and we weren't necessarily profitable every month, I never thought about giving up.
Right.
Like that was never even an option. It was just like, no, this is the company. This is the first company I started, and this is the one I want to keep alive. And for a long time, I kept it alive through licensing my name to more mass market stuff.
Oh, right.
So, like my name on boards that we sold more mid-tier sporting goods stores, Target. Those royalties were put to Birdhouse to pay for the team. That's pretty much how I kept it afloat. I mean, not afloat. That's how I kept the guys paid what I thought they deserved.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's times. I mean, I remember seeing. I read something and you had gotten a check for like 80 cents or some.
Oh yeah.
I mean, way back forever ago.
Yeah.
Like when times are tough, like royalties are gone.
Yeah. Well, but those times. Like the times of the real small checks was when I first started and I went pro, and so I never expected anything anyway. No one was making any money. Like people don't, it's hard for anyone to understand these days. But basically, what it meant to be pro in my day was that you filled out an entry form to a competition, and you checked the pro box instead of the am box. Then you're pro.
That's the difference.
That's it.
That was it.
And then you're competing with the people who are considered pros, and you're competing for $100 first place prize money. That was it. I mean, really, like that's no. I'm not exaggerating at all.
Right. You didn't have to be like turned.
No one cared. Like it wasn't the money wasn't the thing.
Yeah, it was to skate.
Yeah, and maybe down the line, someone put your name on a skateboard, and it's like, that's happened to me. And then I got a check for $4. And then the next month I got a check for 85 cents. It was like, well, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't trying to make it a career.
Right. I mean, eventually it grew, but
yeah. But I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't the motivation. Nobody was rich or famous from skateboarding.
Well, it seemed like back then it didn't seem. Yeah, that wasn't like an objective was to be a career skateboarder.
No.
It was just to keep
and
skating.
I was lucky that I was young enough that it didn't really matter anyway.
Right.
I mean, I was 14 when I turned pro. I wasn't looking to, support children or pay a mortgage.
You're just having a rad time.
I was literally looking to get enough money to buy a moped.
To buy a moped.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Which I did.
Yeah.
After about a year of collecting pro prize money, I bought myself a scooter. A Honda.
And drove yourself
so that I could drive myself to the skate park.
To the skate park.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that was it. And so my dad put rivets on my skate helmet so I could put a visor on it.
Early mods, huh?
Yeah, but then I got pulled over because I wasn't really old enough to drive it.
Oh, right. I wonder if that's something we can bring back.
What's that?
Skate helmets with a face shield to ride your scooter home.
To me, it was the greatest freedom because I got to go to the skate park whenever I wanted. I didn't wait for my parents to get home from work.
Right. How cool. Yeah, I remember those old little, it was like the Honda 50 cc's or something like that.
Yeah. The yellow one. I bought it at the Honda dealership. I think it was like $600.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
Was there a shit ton of money back then?
Oh, no. I think it was like $350.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
think that was it. $350, $400, and then, like I said, then I got pulled over, and then I couldn't drive it, and then I eventually bought a Honda Civic for $1,500.
And then things just went from there.
That was it, yeah.
Awesome. Cool, man. Hey, I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Cool.
And can't wait to see the video.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.